This meeting is being recorded.
So I was gonna say, so what's been going on with you, Austin? I know we didn't link up in Asheville.
Just the usual. It's been how long has it been since we did an episode? It's been at least a couple of weeks, ain't it?
So I think you and I did the last one.
I think
That was
so.
like 10 days ago.
Oh yeah, it's about 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Just kind of
Uh,
living life, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah,
You saw that article I sent you, right?
yeah. I looked over
Yeah.
it, but I meant to send you some feedback on it, so remind me to do that.
Okay,
You
yeah.
sent, you sent it while I was at work, so I didn't get a chance to kind of top it all out. But yeah,
No, you're good. I was just sitting there and I've been working on it for a few days and I was just kind of like, okay, like, let me just kind of put it down, put it together and everything like that. And then I was like, fuck it. I was at work today and I was like, fuck it, I'll just finish it up today and send it to Austin and then send it to Abby to like kind of proofread as far as like you know, uh what's it called? Spelling and all that kind of shit. So
what
you
type
don't
of
need to be an
job
English
you?
teacher.
What type of job you got up where like you could just sit there like I'm gonna type out my political manifesto today?
Well, it took me like 3 days, dude, but like so Friday. Yeah, so was it Friday? Maybe it was Friday. It was like so I had worked on basically I took like a few days, just did like the rough draft. And dude, the first one I still saved, but it was almost like it started sounding like Mark Anthony, or Anthony or whatever it's called. Uh where it's like, what's it, my fellow Romans, lend me your ears, like that kind of thing, and I was just sitting there, I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I was like, this isn't good. And then I was like, okay, well, like let me make it a little bit more refined and try to like touch it up a
did,
little bit and just kind
did
of,
you did you rename it to my struggle at that point?
yeah, I know, but maybe I'll put it in like Spanish or something, or like oh God, maybe what should we go? Maybe like Chinese or something, and really kind of get the whole world going. Um, but no, I was just sitting there doing it, and I was like fuck, I'll just kind of do this, and then I kind of got pissed off with it because I was like, no, this is kind of making sense, and so I then kind of took another day, and yeah, I do it for about an hour and a half at work, like on lunch or something like that. I just kind of start writing it up. Um, but I'd never really kind of formed like an opinion or like an ideology on it, and so I was just kind of like, well, like what does this even like? What does this even mean? And it's funny. One of the guys on someone actually commented on our last episode that we did and was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is a progressive conservative? And I was like that's when I really kind of was like, yeah, like let me think about this. Like, let me try to write it down if I could. Um, and so I just started doing that, and then I think I took like maybe an hour and a half or so on Friday, and I kind of wrote up a little bit. It might have been Thursday, and then today I just took an hour and 15 minutes, just kind of writing it up more, and just touched it up, and was like, here, good enough. Let me see what Austin says. Um, because Abby didn't want to give a shit about it. She's like, I don't want to look at this stuff. She's political, but she didn't want to be political. She didn't want to really talk about politics much. So,
I just think we should be nice to everybody. Why can't we
oh
all
yeah,
be?
like I told you, yeah, it's like I don't understand why we all can't just get along. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, I wanted to be like, well, babe, it all starts with the Russian Empire and the fall, and conversion to Bolshevism. And I really wanted to just go down that road, but like she gets so pissed off when I do that stuff, and she's like, I knew she wouldn't want to hear it.
You should next time. You should just go on the 4chan route and just start yelling like obscure like euphemisms from like the 19th century at her.
Yeah, but
That's what I
she
do.
wouldn't. That's the thing. She wouldn't get any of it, and that's the thing is that just pisses me off. Like I forget what we were talking about the other day with her, but she was saying something where it was like, oh, I forget what it was. It was something where it was like very common. Oh, I was like, oh, it was. I think it was like today. It was. I was like, hey, like New York was. Here, this. What was New York called before it was called New York?
New Amsterdam.
Right, and so she didn't know that. And
Mhm.
I and she's like, oh, like where does her last name come from again? And I was like, oh, it's Dutch. And she's like, well, what about German? Like, is it German? I was like, no, it's Dutch. And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, who are the Dutch? And I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, and she's like, well, would they do anything? Like I only care about like American history. And I was like, well, they founded like New Amsterdam, which ended up becoming New York. And she's like, yeah, but that's like I'm more interested like in like the wars and like this kind of thing. And I was like, well, there was, and I was like there was the Anglo-Dutch War or the Second Anglo-Dutch War, which really kind of put an end to the Dutch Empire. And I really started kind of wanting to go down that route. And I was I literally told her I was like you're not gonna give a shit. So I was like, no, we're not gonna go there. So
Well, I told you what happened with mine the other night, didn't I?
oh, about the libtards.
Well, that was part of it. But what made it even funnier? So we, so we, so we had stopped in Asheville to see a college friend of mine happened to be there. So I was, originally we were going to meet up when you guys cut, and I was like, oh, I hit him up. I was like, yeah, man, let's hang out. And she was with me, so we stopped to see him for a second. And like we went to like some bar, and they didn't have like normal bathrooms. They had like all gender bathrooms,
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
So then I can't remember how we got on the subject, but then she was just like, yeah, it's for the LGBTVs. They even have the plus sign or something now. And I just lost it. I was like, the LGBTVs. Oh man, it
Dude,
was so funny.
what'd you think when you went in that bathroom? This would have been a good one for Josh because I really want to. I'd be curious what he has to say about that. But what'd you think when you went in that bathroom?
I mean, it looked like every other bathroom. The whole like. I mean, this was like
Was
a
it
dive bar.
was it like a one person bathroom or was it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
oh,
It wasn't.
okay.
So it wasn't like it was like they just had like a regular toilet and stuff. So it's like this just feels like virtue signaling. It's not like
Yeah.
it's
There's no difference.
yeah.
Well, so I was asking about that because I went to I think it's here in Atlanta. They have like they were like oh the bathroom's right there and so like I went in to one of them but there wasn't a door so it's like you just kind of go in you hang a right and then like there's the bathroom and so I go in there and I look on the other end and there's a girl and I swear and I think I was high too because I think we were at some like nice restaurant down in like downtown Atlanta like kind of near the school so I was like okay I should have thought I was like okay there's gonna be some like more leftist stuff in here very progressive stuff and so I walked in there and I saw this girl on the other end and she's like sitting there like about to go wash her hands and I was like oh shit because I always had this fear that I'm gonna go in the wrong bathroom and someone's gonna be like being like, "What are you here?" like freaking out and like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to end up on like the news or like some Facebook thing or a Karen. And I was like, so I was always worried about it. And I came in and I saw this girl on the other end washing her hands, and I was like no, I was like oh god, I went in the wrong bathroom. And so I went outside and there was no like nothing on the door. And I ended up asking the guy, I was like, oh, is there like a bathroom around here? And he's like, oh yeah, it's that one. And I went in there and I was like, okay. And I was like, whatever. I was like, the guy told me to go in here. I was like, fuck it, whatever. And I went in there and I went to the bathroom and like this girl was in there. And I was like, it's weird that like I'm in the bathroom with like a woman and I'm like washing my hands. I'm just doing everything I normally would do. But I was like, it's so weird to me that and I mean I think over time I'd get used to it. Um, but I was like, it's so weird that like I'm in here now and there's like a girl. And I was like, this is just foreign to me, you know? And like I honestly I kind of got a little bit of like the whole trans thing. And I kind of got where people are like can feel a little uncomfortable if that happens. And I'm not advocating for it in any way. But I'm like I can kind of understand where like people get a little uncomfortable with it. And I always had the hot take. I was like, if like I don't think I was like, look, if you don't like that there's men and women's bathrooms, you're either all like everyone's going in one bathroom or every single group gets a bathroom. And I was like, we obviously can't do every single person gets a bathroom, but I was like, we could do everybody gets a bathroom, like in that situation. And I was like, and you probably know this. When you're at work and maybe you ate some bad shit at lunch and you got the runs or you've been drinking too many protein shakes or whatever it is, and like you're tearing that bathroom up. I was sitting there and I was like, I don't think girls like like I think no one is sitting here saying should be advocating for this because I feel like that's just like disgusting. Like I feel like no one wants to be hearing what the other sex does in the bathroom. Like that might really reduce the fertility rate. If hearing go in the bathroom with like all these other people. You know.
You might hear about like them crying about how they got like something on their dress or whatever.
Well, I mean, you think about it, like, girls now can't, what's the whole thing is, hey, let's go to the bathroom. It's like that's like some safe space, like on a date. And it's like, okay, you're going to the bathroom, like I could go there too, you know. So like that'd be kind of an interesting like thing to see, you know, how does that switch?
Yeah, it sounds really romantic until the dude that's in there like off like his fifth bowl of chili is just laid
That's what I'm saying. It's all cool and shit, and then you realize the guy's really tearing it up next to you, and you're just like, oh Jesus, you know. Like I
Yeah.
mean, you know, Abby. Like I'll say this on the podcast. Abby, and even my mom, I think, like they'll shut the door, and they're like, do not poop anywhere near me, you know, like or don't be anywhere near me when I poop. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't think girls are really gonna want that.
Yeah, I can see it. The funny one for me, since you're on the topic, I actually did that one time. I accidentally walked in the wrong bathroom. I was like at a bar, and I was like several drinks deep. So I walked in. At first, I didn't realize that. Like you would think the lack of urinals would tip me off, but I was just like, okay, went in here, did my business, walked out, was washing my hands, and a group of girls walked in. So I was like, all right, I got to play this really carefully. So I just acted like I was supposed to be there. Just walked out. Just like kept a straight face. Just like walked out.
Dude, and the thing is, like, I mean, if you've been to I've really hold on. If I start like freezing up or anything, let me know, and I'll turn my video off. Because sometimes I have internet issues. Like I'm kind of freezing up now. Here, let me turn this off. Okay, let me know if it messes up with the speech or anything. Okay.
Gotcha.
But I've noticed this at Tennessee games. Like, there's been a lot of like I will notice pretty regularly, like women like are going into the men's bathrooms at, like when they're like, hey, I gotta fucking go, and they just go. But it's like completely cool. It's like, oh yeah, you know, Becky's over there taking a in the stall next to all the guys, and everyone's at the urinals, and it's like no big deal. But it's like if you walked into a girl's bathroom and you're like, get out of the way, I gotta take a shit, you know, like you will be thrown out, and you might be on a list, you know.
It's kind of a double standard, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, man. Like I said, I mean, it is what it is. But what was I gonna say? There was I forget what it was. When I went into that bathroom in Atlanta and I walked in, I saw the urinals. Like it was almost like there was like in the center there were urinals, and on the edges there were women's bathrooms or their stalls. And I went in there and I saw the stalls or the urinals, and I was like, even then, I was like, when I first went in, I was like, it's like, this doesn't look right. You know what I mean? And for some reason, I was like, no, like it'd be kind of normal, I guess, if like, you know, like I wouldn't have been freaked out or anything. But then I was like, well, I guess maybe they could have them in the girls' bathroom, you know. And you see those like real redneck girls, they stick their like leg up on the side of the wall or something, and they just kind of piss in the urinal, like, you know. I was like, well, you know, I wouldn't be surprised like if that happened in some girls' bathrooms. But honestly, man, you know, I don't really know. Like, so I one thing I kind of want to, maybe we can transition this. One thing I was curious about. So, like, what do you think? Right. So, like, with like the whole, not necessarily with the whole trans thing, but just kind of like where that's kind of like starting to become area of interest, I guess, in like conversation, especially in the conservative circles. Like, what's your kind of viewpoint on all that?
In terms of like what's happening like the last couple of days, or
you know, let's just put it broadly, and then we'll start talking about like what's going on in the past few days.
I think that's mainly had the big focus right now because I mean there's just so much happening all of a sudden. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like the whole trans thing, and you definitely have heard some people on the left talk about it, where it's like it is dominated. Like that is like the central culture war thing nowadays is the whole trans stuff. And I wasn't sure if that's like how you kind of see that on the conservative or on the Republican side.
Oh, honestly, I was about to say like it seemed like here recently it's just not been like. I mean, it's obviously still there. It's in the background, but it's not like it's been like a central focus in the terms of just like this is something like we're hyper like aware of. I think I agree.
So where do like Republicans kind of put most of their energy?
I honestly right now I think everybody's just like really kind of focused and excited on like where things are heading at the moment because I mean there's so much going on. Like I know I keep repeating it, but it's just like they really went like almost like the way somebody compared it to it's almost like a blitzkrieg strategy because it's like they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this, they're doing that, and it's just like it doesn't give you time to focus on any one thing at the moment. And I think I've seen several people be like, this honestly was a pretty good like strategy in a sense
Oh
because
yeah,
like think about it, like CNN's like really butthurt about renaming the Gulf of Mexico, like that actually matters or whatever. But
yeah, I
like
know.
you're focused on that, and then meanwhile like he's just tore out like most of like what was it he did last night? It wasn't the equal opportunity law. It was the
I
executive
know there's
order.
a bunch of
Johnson's.
DEI stuff. The
Oh yeah.
the
Well,
birth birthright
oh,
citizenship stuff
it
was
was
coming up.
affirmative action in federal and contracting, and
Yes.
like somebody pointed out, like 25% of like businesses nowadays do some sort of contracting with the federal government. So obviously that's going to have like major effects, and that was one of the key cornerstones, like what Johnson did back in the '60s. I mean,
Well,
there's
but dude, even Biden. I mean, that's how he was pushing down the whole. That's how they got a shit ton of people vaccinated. Was they were like, hey, you're not working here unless you're vaccinated.
oh yeah,
So like they've always used the minimum wage. That's another one. So where the federal government, they used to have it. I think it's actually there's like a minimum wage and there's like a federal government minimum wage. So if you do a contract with the government, you have to pay your people a minimum amount. So like I think it's like twelve
I said,
dollars an hour or something like that.
yeah, I was gonna say like 11 or 12 is what I
Yeah,
was
like
thinking.
it's not bad. Like and especially because you know for a fact they have not adjusted that in probably the past 4 or 5 years. Like back when $11 an hour wasn't bad, like that was kind of the minimum you could pay people. And so like they've always kind of done that stuff to kind of cram down the throat of like some agenda, but also kind of getting what they want done and kind of hopefully to get the rest of the people on board, you know.
Mhm.
So they've always
I
done
mean,
that.
and like you said, like there's so many other things too. Because I mean that was huge. Like a lot of the, and then like he did something with Title IX, I think today or yesterday. I can't remember which. That was another big one. And then
Well, and so it's funny you mentioned the Blitzkrieg thing because I was thinking the same thing the other day, where I was like, I think he's like, okay, we gotta help the libertarians out, do this, we gotta do this, do this, do this, and he's just like sign these orders away, and he's like, let's get it all done at the beginning, and then we can kind of focus on the other shit, But like
it's
we gotta get everybody happy here.
and it's so useful because it's like I said, like he's throwing out like enough like rage bait to where they get like hyper focused on that. Because I mean, like it's
Energy,
like yeah, they're
the
like they're
environment,
focused on
yeah,
this, and then it's like you're sneaking through these other things in like the middle of the night, and they're just like too busy, like you know. I don't know if you saw that, but the Greenland thing is still going on, and there was like
yeah.
some Republican they interviewed, I think on like Fox or CNN, was like, "Yeah, we're the top predator. We're going to take Greenland," and it's just like on its face, it makes you want to laugh, but it's also like, man, if they're like focused on this guy saying that, they're not paying attention to like, hey, look at this like executive order we just issued that like repealed this whole thing or whatever. I mean, it's pretty, it's smooth. I mean, I honestly think at this at first I would have like maybe wrote it off as like they're just trying to get a bunch of stuff done, but now I honestly do think like the way they're doing it, like I said, like that one, like the thing from uh you know, affirmative action and federal employment, like that was done like late last night. So I feel like there's definitely like a strategy to this where like they do enough during the day to get you like hyper focused on that and upset, and the
Yeah.
next day they're doing it, and then they're sneaking something through in the night, and you're just too
Well,
distracted.
and that's the other thing is it's really weird because when you compare him to Biden, like you said, Donald Trump, if he's like, he could be like jerking off in the middle of the night and it's like, fuck it. We're just gonna say, fuck the Paris Climate Accord. And he's like he could just be like, fuck that. He could wake up, take his hand out of his dick and just be like, all right, we're gonna go down there and we're just gonna do it. But it's like with Biden, he wasn't getting up in the middle of the night to do anything. If you weren't, you knew when shit was gonna happen with Joe Biden because it'd be like some event and you knew he was gonna have to come out there and make some policy change. But like Donald Trump, he's like, nah, if I want to fucking do it tomorrow or in 10 minutes, I'm gonna do it. Give me a camera, give me a piece of paper, we'll start signing shit, and it's just going. It's just going out the door. You know, everything's getting signed, everything's getting passed, everything's getting enacted.
Well, the really funny one on that note too was like it came out today because I mean he pardoned all the January 6th people, and
Yeah,
like it
that's
was
a good
reporting.
one.
Well, I was that was one of my litmus tests for this. I was like, you got to stick up for your people. And if you're not willing to do that, then that was kind of going to be one of my keep an eye on things. So I'm very interested by the fact he actually did it, and there wasn't no. See, that was the thing that came out today in like reporting, which made it funny. Was it was like apparently there have been internal debates like, okay, do we want to pardon everybody? Do we want to just pardon these particular types? I mean, how do we want to do
But I was
this?
gonna say,
And
but
then,
even further, I've heard where people say the exact same thing that you said, and he says, like, for example, I think it was with, like, he kind of mentioned it in that press conference where he was like, he's like, yeah, like we're pardoning all these people, and when people are like, oh, what about the guy who was shown on camera like tasering a guy in the eye or whatever it was, I think was the example, and he's like, well, we're gonna see, like that guy we're gonna see, and so it made me kind of be like, okay, like maybe you're gonna pardon everybody, but then maybe you'll commute someone's sentence. You know what I mean? And so he was kind of saying he's going to pardon everybody, but it's like, no, certain people may just get like a few years off their time, or maybe it'll be capped out. I think one guy in there from the Proud Boys is in it for 20 years. People may just do like time served. Like
yeah.
I've heard a bunch of that kind of stuff where it's like, well, he says pardon, but I think it's going to fall very far short of what that actually is. Is that what you're
Well,
kind of
see,
hearing?
well, what was really funny about it was apparently that was like the big debate. Like, how do we want to do this? Do we just want to, commute the sentence to everybody? Who do we want to pardon? And finally, he was just like literally the quote was, he just decided to say fuck it, and then just said, we'll just pardon everybody. I mean, they did end up commuting
Yeah.
I think they ended up commuting like 80 people, but they like pardoned like 1,500. So it's like really, whatever.
Yeah.
It was just so funny because they were like, yeah, he just was in a meeting, just like, what, fuck it, we'll just do whatever.
Well, and you think about it, like, I mean, a lot of these people are probably like, uh, they probably got like maybe, I thought like most of these people only got like 3 months in jail or something like that. Like it was like ridiculous. Like there's like only like a few people actually still in jail. I mean, is that what you're hearing, or do you know, or I don't know. That's what I've always
The
heard.
exact number still in jail, I don't know. I know from DC they still had several dozen. The thing that was like really pissing people off though was like, I do know there was at least a few cases where like they still had a trial for like 4 years and they'd been
Oh,
in
really?
like jail. Yeah, so it's kind of like that was a big one. And then like some of them, it's like, you know, what was the one that really got everybody mad? There was like a 7-year-old grandfather that they couldn't pin him doing anything other than being in the building, and they were
Mhm.
still trying to give him like a lengthy sentence. And it's like, okay, at worst, this should be like a trespassing charge.
Well, and that was always my thing with Democrats that I never understood. And like I never thought and that's one thing that they just never defined the conversation on it. They never defined what there is to talk about it. Like if they said, "Hey, look, you're the one of the Proud Boys, you know, this is where we stand on this. Like, hey, you're a Proud Boy, you were there, you definitely maybe had a plan, whatever it is. Like, okay, you're gonna get actual jail time." And then being like, okay, one of the old guys out in the outside waving the flag, and he's like over a stone's throw or however many feet away. Like, okay, maybe don't give him anything. But it's like, yeah, you said, like, hey, did you go inside? Okay, maybe that's a trespassing. And like you kind of like really have to like go bit by bit. And one of the critiques that I think is probably fair is that I think people in the I think Joe Biden probably he probably went too aggressive with the prosecutions. Like he was almost like trying to send a message. And I feel like it was like one of those where it's like looking back, it's like, yeah, like you said, like you got some old guy, I think it was like an old woman or something like that. They tried getting something on her, and it was just kind of like, all right, dude, like come on, like, like let's be not reasonable, but like let's be realistic about what we're doing here.
I mean, that was the big thing because I mean, like, it's one thing if it's like, oh, that this guy like was caught on camera like assaulting a cop or something,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like like I'm trying to remember all the cases because there were so many, and there was like the big issue the other night was like they were refusing to release some at like one of the jails. So then I can't remember if it was they sent like a team of lawyers down there, if they sent U.S. Marshals or something. I remember seeing it, I think on like Twitter or whatever. It was like it's uh, it's one thing if you do something, but it's like if you're just in the building, do I really care? No. I mean, and to the point that like a lot of people have brought up, it's like back in the 50s, there was like an instance where like Puerto Rican nationalists like shot like several congressmen during a session. And then there was
Yeah.
like another, like Weather Underground was like blowing, like
Yeah.
at least once did. It's like, why are we like I know for a fact, like a lot of those Weather Underground people never got prosecuted for it. We know who they are now. And it's like, trying to pretend like, okay, yeah, they broke into the Capitol building, okay, whatever. But it's like, I think if you have like an old grandma walking around in the building is kind of a different thing than like a guy that's like,
Yeah.
planting like a pipe bomb in like the basement or whatever.
Well, and
Which
like
we
you said,
probably,
just give them a trespassing charge.
yeah, I mean,
I know you got to punish them, but it's like, but that's what I'm saying is like, I feel like they were like, no, like we're trying to send a fucking message. What do you think, Josh? Are you back, right?
Yeah,
Maybe.
back. Yeah, back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
just
still in the
chime in.
shower?
Just chime in. What do you think?
Like regarding which part there?
The whole January 6th people being pardoned.
I mean, I think at this point it's almost like I think they probably knew we were going to do it. He went ahead, got his family and the Fauci family and stuff. So like for me, I think it's however you want to look at it. But I mean, I would have done it. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming that like we saw that happen and everything that kind of went on with it. Like I'm cool with it.
So you mentioned a good one with Fauci, and just got freely chime in whenever you guys think. Cut me off if you don't. I really thought, and I really do want to see like a January 6th, like not January 6th, a COVID-19 commission, like where they just go balls to the walls and they like try to like be like, okay, like China, like this happened and this is like what we have from China, like gold star commission that thing and be like, yeah, the Chinese government was creating a bioweapon. Like I feel like that's even as a Democrat, I'm like I do want to see that. I want to know if that was true or not. You know, what let's throw it to you, Austin. What do you think? You think they're gonna do anything with COVID-19? Oh, god damn it!
It'd be really
Can you
funny if
hear
I
me?
remember
Okay,
yeah, it'd be really funny if I remember to unmute myself.
okay. No, I was worried it was me, dude. I was about to switch my network. I was like, oh shit! Like, did it drop?
Yeah, I just feel like at this point, I feel like that'd just be political grandstanding. I mean,
For
there's
COVID?
no, I feel like there could be some value in it as terms of just like doing it for the sake of doing it, but it's also just
Yeah.
like there's so many other things going on. I mean, like I'm not opposed to it, but I just feel like they've already got the pardons, they've already got this and that. At this point, it just feels like it'd be like too much political capital being expended on that.
So
I mean,
go ahead, and finish.
I mean, maybe in the future, but like right now, I just feel like the priorities on so many other things.
So here's I'm gonna say this and then I want to give it to Josh. I almost feel like politically, and maybe this is the elected official person in me. I almost feel like politically, it would be better to do a COVID-19 commission than going back and like trying to relitigate January 6th or Hunter Biden. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I guess the way that I kind of look at it is like if you go after COVID-19, that affected everybody. And if you can come out and say, "Hey, yeah, like the government fucked up on something," and being like, we, the government fucked up, and it was a bioweapon from China," I feel like that is like the best motivation if I was Donald Trump to be like, "Hey, yeah, this is why you need to get on board with my policies." Like, hey, like, yeah, you want like these tariffs that I said I'm gonna introduce in February. You want to know why? That's because China, the people who made this bioweapon, we're penalizing them. We're gonna hurt their economy, and this is what we're gonna do. And maybe he's gonna be like, hey, we're gonna create, we're gonna do a show of force. We're gonna not necessarily like bomb them or anything, but do that kind of stuff. I'd be like, well, yeah, like 100%. I'd be like that's what you should do. So like for me, I'm like, go ahead and do that. Like get everybody pissed off. But you go after January 6th, that's just gonna get your base all happy. You go after Hunter Biden, that's just gonna piss on the Democrats. I was like, if you really want to get everybody and try to get some political capital, like that's a good way to do it. What do you think, Josh? What do you think they should do?
Like to get the capital or like
I guess like what do you like? Do you think doing the whole COVID-19 thing is a like going and doing commission and investigating it helps or is better or worse than going after and relitigating like January 6th?
I think it's better.
Why?
I think with the whole COVID-19 thing, I think there's kind of more substance to it. I mean, does that make sense? Like, you know what I
So
mean?
you think like do you think like we have more information? Is that
I
what you're
think
kind
we
of
have
saying?
more information. I think it'd be more beneficial, and I feel like it would show up easier because I feel like J6, not trying to take away from, whether or not people believe that, that it was like real setup, whatever. But like in a way, you're kind of like going off of an assumption and a dig versus like COVID-19. Like I think we have information, like 100% information.
Well, I mean, you think about it, like some people like Joe Rogan. I mean, like they basically already laid it out.
Yeah, no, they did.
Being like, here's the evidence, like here's what happened, here's everything like that. We know what happened, right? And just being like, okay, like is China going to admit or not? Like that's basically what we're at. Or and I guess maybe you could say like, was it an intentional bioweapon or was it non-intentional bioweapon? That's pretty much all you can that's left to be asked. Like you said, we know everything. You know, Josh.
Yeah, no, I agree. My thing is, and sorry, I didn't mean to stop there. I thought you were continuing there. But no, I mean, it's the reason that I say that I would go with the COVID-19 thing is because, like you said, like it's laid out. I
Yeah.
mean, we have it, like you said, and honestly, no, I do not think China will ever
I
do
think so.
that. And I mean, like I'll be honest, Fauci is really lucky that Biden did give him that pardon. Because like bar none, like even if Trump would have never touched the Biden family, like Fauci was fucked, I think.
Well, I think Biden was done with him. I think Biden knew it was a political liability to even have him around. Um,
Yeah, dude, for sure, bro.
well, I mean, he didn't stay on much longer. Um, that's a whole subject. I was gonna say that, and maybe we can keep going about this with COVID, because I'm curious what you have to say, Austin, because I feel like you know something about it that I don't know.
Yeah, let's
Like
say
I feel like you're like there. You've got something in the weeds, being like,
Austin's
no, like
definitely
we've
got
got the
something
letter from
cooking,
Xi
bro.
Jinping saying to fucking bioweapon the shit out of the United States. You know what
Austin's
I mean?
definitely got something cooking in there,
Yeah,
dude.
you got something cooking over there.
You got that
I mean,
Wuhan cook.
we cooking up bats tonight, boys. But
I was like,
the I, uh, but let me just stutter and sound like I'm just like losing my mind over here real fast. Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely feel like there's like a case to be made out of. I mean, it. I think I saw something the other day and I didn't bother to read it. I just saw like the headline, like a blurb, so I didn't. But there was something like that, like I think it was like some committee or something had like like there was again. Let me just keep stuttering. Like there was something Fauci was tied to. I think it was like the eco health thing or something
Yeah,
that they were
yeah,
doing
yeah.
gain of function research. Like they disbarred him or something and
Oh,
like one of the main doctors involved or something. So it's like there clearly is something there if they're willing to like go that step to like, hey, like expel them, sanction them, whatever. So I mean, there definitely is something there. So I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I just, if in terms of like, are they actually going to do something with that? I don't know.
but you're basically saying you don't know anything else than what's out there, right? Or like
Yeah,
what's well known out there. Like I said, like with January 6th, it seems like you know like a little bit more about the cases. You know some of the details.
it's with January 6th. It's been a while since I looked into it. Back in the day, I used to pay a lot more attention to it because like there was several examples of just like like egregious overreach and abuse.
But so are you sympathetic to the January 6th cause or not?
Like okay, so I definitely never was sympathetic to the sense of like I thought there was like a steal or something. I was never one of those people. But like
Of the 2020 election?
yeah, like yeah, I never really bought into that. But I'm also like it's like I said, like when you start seeing like really egregious examples of like federal overreach, abuse of like people. And I mean, I kind of stop and I think about it too. Is like the average age of these people was like 56, I think it was. Like these are not like militants, breaking in to slaughter them, or it's like your crazy uncle or your granddad or something. It's like,
Yeah.
and they were trying to treat him like they were terrorists and stuff. I'm like, and then like I said, like there was that one case of like the granddad, like I think they busted in, got him at like gunpoint in front of like his grandkids or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, you see stuff like that, and it really doesn't sit right with me because like. For one, I'm like, it's like I said earlier, like at most of these people could have got a trespassing charge. I could kind of see that, but it's like when you're trying to be like, oh, we shall give you 20 years for, you were in Nancy Pelosi's office and you put her feet on her desk, like that one guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not that big of a deal. It really is, and pretending like it is just really does not sit right with me because it's like, and I'll just go ahead and throw it out there, like it for the ride, the whole trying to act like January 6th was like this huge 9/11 thing really did not sit right with anybody because it's like literally 6 months before you guys were burning down cities. Like during the 2020 protests, like I think the last statistic I saw before they quit reporting it was like 150 people died, and it's like only one person died during January 6th. There was like I think $7 to $20 billion in damages. And I'm like, why are we pretending like this is completely fine, no big deal, than this one thing that is in no way comparable in body count, damage, anything? It's just like the end of the world. And it's just like when it's so obviously one sided and such a double standard that just does not, at least in my, like that's one thing I really cannot stand is double standards. And I will, if I ever, like that's one thing I really dislike in politics. When I see somebody doing a double standard, it just does not sit right with me.
No,
I mean,
it's interesting you say that. So, one of the things that I always thought was interesting, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I remember, I think it was me and Abby. We were like this seems so stupid, or maybe it was me and my dad. It was something like that. Where I remember we were just like, this is so dumb that you've got these people protesting during lockdown, And I'm just like, but everyone's like, oh no, this is fine, this is fine. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, maybe most of them are fine, but I'm like, there's some pretty bad shit going on. Like, I mean, I in Atlanta. Atlanta was one of those. I mean, we had our own fucking thing down here with some kid getting shot or whatever, and it was like, oh, but I think he even had a gun, and so it's like all this other kind of stuff. I forget the police cop city or whatever it is. Like they've got all this kind of shit, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, you guys are making this big deal about every fucking thing, and you guys are like rioting and breaking shit and all this other kind of stuff. And then like I'll be honest, like when the Capitol Hill thing happens, I'm like that's bad too, But I'm just like I don't like when people are like, oh well, that's different and that's different, And I'm like okay, the difference was the government building compared to like a McDonald's or whatever.
we'll see what too to kind of hammer on that point for a second. Like we're trying to act like okay, they broke into the Capitol like it's a sacrilege of American democracy.
Oh yeah, like that's never happened before.
Well, not only does that happen multiple times back, like I said during the 2020 riots. Like you could go back from like May 29th to I think June 3rd. I distinctly remember June 3rd because I remember watching part of it happen live. The White House was literally getting besieged. Like there were several Secret Service agents that got injured. They were trying to scale the walls. At one point, like the National Guard was so overwhelmed that I think it was Bill Barr was Attorney General at the time. Bill Barr was literally bringing in prison guards from Texas.
Yeah,
and they brought in guys from like BORTAC and I think U.S. Marshals. It seemed like there were some other. I mean, like it was literally that desperate to where they were bringing in like prison guards from Bureau of Prisons from Texas, and the reason they were bringing them from Texas is because they couldn't trust other states.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. That's what I'm saying. And it's like, hey, like that's bad. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, we don't want that. And like you said, like you'll hear, and I will give Donald Trump that. I will say, when people give him shit for the Capitol Hill stuff or the Capitol riots, even though I think he had a part in not condoning it, but pushing in that direction, whether he wanted to or not. I'm like, even at the end of the day, he's like, well, that's not good. Like that's not good too. Like, what about those people? And I'm like, I think that's like a fair argument. Like, hey, you want to give me shit? Well, what about those people?
And I'll make a point. Like, I was one of the people that was like, okay, yeah, I do agree that like the stuff he was saying and doing at the time is what brought a lot of those people there. Like, I do think he had a role in it, and that was actually something that really infuriated me for the longest time because I'm like, dude, you still had like 2 weeks in office. If you really wanted to, for one, you could have pardoned them, but second of all, the fact you brought them there and so many of them got in trouble for that, like. That really did not sit right with me either. So like I have no problem with that. My issue is like you've got these, like I said, like the average age I think was like 40 or it was either 46 or 56 or something like that. It was somewhere in that range. So like really middle aged, almost elderly. It's like these are people that like they see him as their leader. They're like really motivated. I mean like you can sit here and like make all the aspersions as to them individually as you want, but it's like at the end of the day, these people thought they were patriots. They thought they were like. Like you could say they were stupid for believing what they believed in, but at least they believed for something.
Yep.
And like too, and like going back to like the situation back in the summer of 2020, like it's like I said, like you literally had prison guards from Texas. Like you want like if January 6th was a coup d'état, what happened during the summer of 2020 was literally an attempted color revolution. When you like have a situation where like like they came and trusted the National Guard, they're having to pull in like literally like okay, loyalist units. Let's pull in like I said, prison guards, BORTAC, U.S. Marshals. That's all the units we can rely on. Like that was the type of situation, and like I've talked to several people from like that, were kind of active at that time too, and they're all like, yeah, we honestly thought it was like a such like the thing was spiraling out of control. Like it almost felt like, if not necessarily like a civil war situation, it definitely felt like a very typical color revolution you'd see in like Eastern Europe or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it's just like, I don't buy it. We can't pretend that one thing didn't happen and it's no big deal and then try to act like, I mean, it just does not sit right with me.
So Josh, who do you think is worse at the double standard? Republicans or Democrats?
Dude, that's a tough. I mean, worst double standard. I'm probably gonna go. Man, part of me really wants to go the Democrats here because of just the change in their party over time. So I think I'm going to go there just because of the change in the party over time. But I mean, I'm open to anybody that wants to argue the other side of that.
Well, I was gonna say, so like, where on so how do you think Democrats are worse? Like, give me an example.
Just as far as like setting a double standard.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think in a way that it's worse. Was the my body, my choice thing, and then turning around and forcing us to take vaccines. I thought that was, not to take two different issues, but it's hard for me to get behind someone that's like, we want like this freedom, but you suck as a human being if you don't do this.
Yeah.
So not to be, hopefully that wasn't too cookie cutter, and it's something that you
No,
can.
so here's one that I think about a lot, and I'd be curious to see what you have to say. I think Democrats do that with guns. Where they're like they're like oh, we're like, I feel like they're very anti-gun ownership and gun rights. But like, if you like, they don't want you to have the gun, but if you want to get someone to basically stick a coat hanger up your cooter and rip out a baby, like, we can do that up to 15 weeks or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like okay, like, you're all for like what kind of, like, where are you saying, like, what is your actual philosophy on this? Like, are you really like
So that's real,
pro-life or not? Like you fuck these two up all the time. And I'm like, you're either pro-freedom or you're not. If you're pro-freedom, that means Second Amendment freedom as well.
Can I jump in on that question
Yeah,
real
yeah,
fast?
go ahead.
I saw like a horrendously funny one earlier. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Where was that? Like, for one, like, I'm looking for this to throw it out there. So I don't know if you guys remember back during like early COVID, so like April of 2020, there was some like anti-lockdown protests that started, and they went down hard on that as far as like, like, this is dangerous. You're going you're going to spread it. You can't do that. And then like literally a month later, when like the Floyd protest started, like they were coming out and being like, oh yeah, like protesting is good, so public health, for a public health reason, so we're going to say that's fine, and it's just these other protests that are bad. And like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was like one of the person that was being interviewed was like pretty liberal, but he was also kind of like, he seemed kind of, I guess, fair, maybe moderate in a sense. And like that was one of the things he says. He's like, when we do this like obvious double standard, like that is when a lot of people stopped having any trust in like public health during the COVID, and then that's when like a lot of like the skepticism started, because it's like when you start doing such obvious, what, like, double standards, it just saps people's belief in you, and that makes everything else like, like you could getting buy-in for anything else. And that, I think that's where a lot of the concern about the vaccine stuff started, because it's like, okay, if they're lying to us about this, then what else are they lying to us about?
Yeah.
And then and I finally found the one I was looking for. So like, talking about double standards, I thought this one was hilarious. So you kind of mentioned earlier with like the birthright citizenship EO.
Yeah.
So I think this is like one of the Federalist Society's like members, and it's really hilarious. He's like, regarding the argument about the citizenship EO, I just think it's kind of funny that like all the progressives are talking about like, look at the plain meaning of the text, look at the original understanding, look at almost 160 years of history and tradition.
Yeah.
And it's like, so basically his whole point, if you can't catch on to that, the Federalist Society is like a very textual, like originalist
Yeah.
school. It's just like,
What's it say? What's it say exactly?
What's its meaning? What is the traditional understanding of it? And he's like, it's pretty funny. They've basically just adopted these arguments. We're supposed to take that at face value.
Yeah. So one thing that you mentioned with those riots, and Josh, I think you would agree because you're definitely I don't know. I guess Josh, you're or not Josh, Austin, you're probably fine because you might have been living in Tennessee. But
I
one
was
of the
in
things
Virginia.
or Virginia. Well, okay. So then this is interesting. I don't know what it was like in Virginia for the lockdowns and everything like that. But I will tell you, dude, like COVID down in Tennessee and Georgia, like there wasn't much you couldn't do. You know what I mean? Like lockdowns weren't really a thing down here. And like thank God. I feel like you want to know something that would radicalize me to be like super conservative? That shit. And so like I kind of feel for some of the people out in California being like, hey, like, yeah, we're not like you're not opening up, you gotta wear masks, you gotta do all this other kind of shit, and like we're really gonna fuck with you on this. And like I kind of like I'm kind of like, yeah, I would have been radicalized if I was under that kind of regime, you know? So what do you think, Austin?
Well,
And then we'll give it to you, Josh. I want to hear what you have to say on this.
as far as like the lockdowns and stuff, Virginia, I was like, I'm from the southwest part of the state. I was in college at the time, so that was a little bit different of a story. But like in my part of the state, it's pretty much culturally identical to Tennessee, more or less. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same. Like I remember being in bars by like May of 2020, so it wasn't like it was. I mean, they started opening up pretty fast. Now,
Yeah.
just as a funny aside, like I wouldn't complain too much about it because wasn't Georgia one of the states that let you do like drive through like margaritas or something?
They could have, dude. I mean, who fucking
I know-
knows, dude? I mean,
I know
you can
Louisiana
do a
did.
drive-by 40 here too. You drive by and they'll give you a 40 ounce of malt liquor. You know, they probably have those around here. Go
I'm
to
just,
Buckhead.
I'm just saying we should maybe consider keeping that one policy from COVID that was was really
That would
funny.
be nice.
But yeah, I mean like, and then too, like the one that really got me was like people not being able to attend funerals or like go see their loved
Yeah. You can't
That-
I remember you couldn't go visit your loved ones in the hospital. You know, even if they're dying, just like it's like last visit or whatever. You couldn't even do any of that. Like I thought that was kind of fucking crazy.
I mean, like, was I ever really like too upset about the mask mandate? I wasn't one of those people. I mean, like, it was like, yeah, was it annoying? Yeah, was I happy it was gone? Yeah, but it wasn't like I was going to sit here and like make a whole. But it's like when like too like the outside gatherings, like they were trying to keep like. Even, I remember even at Christmas they were trying to enforce like, oh, you shouldn't have more than 10 people. They should be masked. It's like, dude, it's
Yeah.
Christmas time. We're with our families. Go fuck
20 feet
yourself.
away from each other.
Yeah, it's like that's just not going to happen. That's not realistic, and it's like at this point, man, just screw off. I mean, there's really no other way to like. But
What
I-
about you? What about you, Josh?
Like on what?
Like how was like lockdowns and all that kind of stuff? Like did you really experience any of that?
Yes and no. I mean, I went through. So my second semester of college was the spring of 2020. So I went through first semester of college, like it used to be. So like it was regular, like pledgeship was regular for like fraternity stuff. And then we flip around and my second semester of my freshman year, we're sitting there and it's like we all got sent home. So I experienced it from the education side, like going to school, I experienced the lockdown, but I didn't experience any lockdowns like with work or anything.
See, it's interesting. So you both were like actually in school. We
sat on a fat war chest on a campaign though because of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess like I'm thinking about with me, 2020, like I was like graduating like grad school at Tennessee, and I was like, I remember like I feel like I had already taken it, or I was about to take my like graduate exam, and like I took it, and so like by that point, like it wasn't anything. It was like I didn't really have to go to class. I didn't really have to do like any work. I was getting paid, and so I was, but I didn't have to go into work because of COVID. And so I was like, I didn't like, it didn't really like prevent me from doing anything I wasn't going to do already,
Yeah, for me it was like I was getting paid by the university, so at the time I worked for the university, and like the way it worked out for us was like right before we went on spring break, they're like, yeah, we're going to be closed down for at least a couple of weeks after you guys get back. And then that quickly turned into we're just going to be closed for like the rest of the semester.
Yeah.
So it was like everything was like virtual. So like I was getting paid, all my classes were online, and a lot of my friends would kind of stayed up there like in the same town. They never really went home for spring break either. So it was just like at the time they're like, yeah, if you just stay in contact with the same people. So it's like, okay, cool. So it basically just evolved to like, I was getting paid to stay home, which was very chill.
Dude,
And then like
dude,
I could,
dude.
yeah, and I could still hang out with like the same friends because, like I said, we were all in the same social network. So it's just
Yeah.
like, yep.
I drank
Like the
way
first,
too much during that, dude.
it's like,
I
Like, those
drank
first-
way too much during COVID.
and like those first 2 months were honestly not bad. Like I didn't mind them.
No.
It wasn't until like,
I enjoyed the reset.
yeah, I think once like the riots and stuff started, that's when like it. At least personally, that's when I started having like issues with it.
The thing that Abby and I always talk about that we hate from lockdowns, and really COVID to an overarching, is that you can't go to there's not as many 24-hour McDonald's anymore. It's like
No
everything
more.
shuts down by like 10 or
Walmart.
11 nowadays.
And Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart, yeah, that's
Walmart
what I
used
was
to be
about to-
24 hours, dude. That was the best.
Dude,
That was the
Walmart
fucking
at like
best.
2 a.m., bro, dude. When you're buying
Yes.
condoms at 2 a.m. from Walmart, dude, crazy times.
Dude, I was gonna say when you like you don't want to go get McDonald's and feel like a fat ass, so you go to Walmart and get like some beef jerky when you've been like high as shit or been drinking or something like that.
Like
I was
said,
thinking
dude,
like that.
Dude,
Waffle House is probably the only thing that's still 24 hours.
fuck yeah, dude. Walmart closed up. Like they started closing at 11 right after COVID, and they started locking up like if you went in there to get like you can't go get ibuprofen half the time now. It feels like without having to like go through some form of like crazy ass like unlocking of a box.
Yeah. It's worse in cities, dude. Like in Miami, they were all like that. That's why I was asking Austin about the whole, Virginia thing, because I was like, like Virginia, when you say Virginia, right? Everyone knows Virginia is basically like Nova, right? Like DC area, right? That's basically like where most of the population is. And so it's kind of like, okay, like, they're kind of running the show. And so that's why I was like, well, how is Virginia? Because you imagine like, oh, that shit's like going to roll over from DC into Virginia, and you're going to have like some huge restrictions. But it sounds like, Austin, you were saying there weren't any.
At least like for the university level and all that stuff, there was like they were really like crazy about it. Like I remember like having encounters with like really crazy mask people and stuff. But like,
Yeah. I had that.
but like as far as like where my family and stuff was, like I said, it's the more rural kind of like redneck part of the state. So they really did after like April, they really didn't care.
What school did you go to?
I went to Radford.
Okay, I don't know where that is.
It's like right next to Tech.
Oh, Virginia Tech, so up towards like
Like
Blacksburg
Roanoke.
and Roanoke.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't really see much of it there.
The university was crazy about it, but otherwise, yeah, it was kind of pretty chill. I went out and like I think it was like the first week or two, like I literally went out and stole like a bunch of like traffic cones and like literally nobody cared.
Yeah.
It was just like at that point they were just like, yeah, whatever.
Damn, dude, that's some crazy shit. I think about that sometimes, and that like before that, I wasn't like super into politics or anything, and like since then, dude, like that's when I just was like, all right, like let me fucking get into this stuff, because I feel like some of the stuff was wild. But yeah, man, like I said, like those rights, dude, would have fucking radicalized me. I would have been like I don't even know, That's why I'm glad I didn't do that.
Bro, dude, we had BLM in North.
I remember that, dude, and I remember that. I remember when they did that shit in Knoxville, and I was just kind of like, what the fuck are we bitching about? Like what? Are you, like this is Appalachia. There's no black people around here.
That's what I said. I was like, there's nobody here.
Oh, but dude, I mean, I'll still see some stuff. Like I've got some girlfriends from high school, and they are like they're probably the furthest left that I know. Like one of them I think is like a straight up like communist Marxist. And she was like posting
Wearing the
something and they were
wearing the
like, we got to
BLM
stop
shirt.
this police cruelty and killing all these people and
Does
this
she
one
wear the
kid who had a gun got shot and so they're all upset about that, but it's like, oh,
does
you
she,
actually like
does
look
she wear
into
the
it.
BLM shirt and walk out to fuck the police?
Oh yeah, dude. And it's just and they're all white and they're all like middle class, and I'm
It
like I'm
always
like what are you guys like,
it
is
is
this,
it
you guys
is a
have too much
lot of
time.
it is always like the white middle class that like is like
So to go back to something Austin and I were talking about. We were talking about the bathrooms. And so like that's one that I feel like nowadays, dude, is like we are talking about. I feel like that's the hot topic, right? Like is the whole bathrooms and the trans stuff. Um and I know you were out there on the trail, and so that's why I was kind of curious if like what your kind of experiences on this, because from what I feel like we've talked about is like the trans stuff and like the women in sports stuff was definitely salient when you were like talking to voters about why you should vote for Donald Trump. Right? That's you, Josh.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out. I didn't know you were talking there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying like so like the trans stuff and the bathroom stuff. How salient of an issue was that on the campaign trail?
Can you repeat the last part of that? I heard the first part. What was the last part about the campaign trail?
So how salient, like how influential of an issue was that?
Was which one?
The trans and the bathroom stuff.
Um, honestly, it like which year are we talking here? Like I need a year.
Oh, 2020, 2024.
So, 24. Okay, good stuff. So I actually saw a lot of it. Because in Tennessee, there was a bill in the state house, uh, that was, and I don't want to say like I don't want to like commit to this because I think there's a lot like I don't think it's necessarily what it was, but there was like a bill that like air quote banned like dudes from like going into like girls' bathrooms and such things like that. And there was a couple of state house reps and state senators that lost their seats because they voted the other way on that. And I'm sure like I think there was other stuff in the bill and that's why they did. But I mean overall, when you start voting against banning dudes from going into like little girls' bathrooms, bro, it's not going to be good for you. But as far as the trans thing went, I mean here in Tennessee, it's just like it's still shunned upon pretty heavy. I mean, overall, you get out here in these rural areas like Northeast Tennessee, it's super shunned upon. But you know,
Why do you think they care so much?
like why do I think the people that
Like why
don't
like I mean you why did people in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia care so much about that issue?
well, I think it's just because it's I mean, like no offense, but I mean like it's a retirement home up here, dude. Like this is not like you don't have like a bunch of like young kids. Like these are like people that have been around for a minute. Their generations have been around for a minute. Like their parents, their grandparents, like they grew up in this like the old 50 style regular thing. So I think like they look at it and it's just sinful. I mean, it's the belt buckle, the Bible Belt, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's sinful, man. Like
Yeah, I mean I mean
like you
that's a
get
good
twisted
point.
down with the sodomites, dude. If you're up here in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia doing that stuff, dude.
Well, I mean it's just interesting you say that because I mean it's 100% true. I mean I remember Abby's her grandmother. I mean was like, hey, like they don't drink.
Like not only do they not drink, dude, but like that generation, I'll tell you, not only that, but one thing that I think's not to like say that this is a problem, but like dude, like that generation, not only do they get mad at, like trans stuff, dude, they don't like interracial couples, bro,
Oh, well, I mean, I that's
at
also like
all.
a cultural thing. I get that one a little bit more because it's just like a whole historical that
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
no, I get
thing.
it. I get it. I
But
get it.
but I mean, what you're saying, like, I mean, the trans people, like, they're like, fuck no. Like Abby's grandma, she's like, you can have one glass of champagne on your wedding night, but they are like, we don't like drinking any other time. They're obviously against drugs, and like, I
Well,
mean,
they're telling
honestly,
her
I
she could.
thought.
Wait. They're telling Abby she could only have one glass, or like that the
Yeah,
grandparents were only going to drink
they
one
said
glass
Abby, you can have one glass of champagne on
on your
on
wedding.
your wedding day, and but they weren't gonna have any. Like they didn't want to drink any. And we got like champagne glasses of champagne for everybody to do a toast, and they're like, we don't want any. Like they are like I mean they're pretty like yeah we don't want any of this booze.
Damn, dude, they're
And
traditional.
I didn't ask him about gambling because that got put there in Bristol. But dude, I mean they're like yeah, and so I sometimes I got to think about that. And Austin, I don't know. I mean you kind of grew up around there too. Just like how culturally conservative some of these people are,
Dude, I gamble on
and socially
Topgolf.
conservative
I
too.
couldn't imagine. Like I gamble on Topgolf. I couldn't imagine like not like having a conversation about the Bristol thing in that situation, dude.
Well, but it's interesting because you can do like FanDuel. You can FanDuel anywhere in Tennessee.
I love
And so
FanDuel.
it's like why is it it was probably a bitch and a half to get that Bristol thing done. And so like imagine like oh yeah in Tennessee it's like oh yeah you want to do sports gambling go for it. It's just weird. It's almost like that contradiction. So Austin is this? I mean, you grew up in this place. I mean, do you see a lot of that, like, in kind of being the reason why some of those issues aren't as important, or very motivating for voters?
Yeah, I mean it's very evangelical area. It's very religious. I mean, I grew up in like a like a really conservative Southern Baptist church. That's
Yeah.
kind of been a big influence in my life too. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's just. I think it's just kind of a reflection of the culture. I do think it's
Yeah.
just it's the South. We're naturally conservative. It's been that way since literally almost since like they settled the place. Definitely at least since like the early 19th century, I would say. So
One thing I think is interesting is a lot of those things I was mentioning, like I guess like the gambling, not so much, but the drinking, drugs. Donald Trump doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke and he doesn't do drugs. And I think that's like really interesting, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I can kind of see why you get these socially conservative voters that look at him and say, like, okay, like he does a lot of the stuff that we do and that we frown upon. It's like I can see why that like can really form a core of your coalition. And I think sometimes we don't think about that as much, but like, yeah, what do you think, Austin?
yeah, I think that makes sense to me.
But do you think that tie because of Donald Trump doesn't do the same thing is there? Because like do you think that's like a huge motivating factor for him?
I would imagine for some people at least, yeah. I think the biggest thing is like a lot of people forget, like back in like the 2016 run up, like evangelicals were very kind of skeptical on Trump. I would say, like I was back then. I
They're
was
big
like,
Ted Cruz fans, weren't they? Or
yeah, that's what I was about.
well, Huckabee before that, but then
Yeah, like big. So, like, to give a personal example, like I said, I grew.
I was gonna say, Josh, you were down on Ted Cruz's campaign, weren't you?
Yeah, I worked for that motherfucker.
Yeah. And then it's funny, Mike Huckabee, our next ambassador to Israel.
Mike Huckabee, good God, dude,
That's a flashback.
That was a fat flashback. I was like, God.
I think I remember him from when
I
remember him, dude, when I was like not even in politics. I was like, I remember Mike Huckabee because he was like trying to run for president and shit like that. And I was like, it's like, dude, you're not it, dude. You are not it.
I think if things had been different, he could have been interesting because he was kind of populist, like at the time. But like, yeah, like his other stuff, I think, kind of hurt him. And then like, like 2008 hit, and then when I think he tried running again. Like, what was it, like 2016 or whatever?
Yeah, 2008 and 2016.
But as far as like the personal example, so I was like a big Trump guy almost from like the summer of 2015. Like it was very soon after I kind of like was that, and it was actually kind of weird because like my parents ended up in the primary that year. They voted for Ted Cruz, and I think a lot of people at our church voted for Ted Cruz. I was like one of the like few like Trump like all the way at the time kind of guys.
So if you were to go back, would you want a Trump? Do you think Trump would be better than Cruz as president?
Yeah, I think.
Would you still? So you go back and you would have changed your decision?
I wouldn't have changed it. I think I feel fundamentally at this point like obviously with the benefit of like 8 years of hindsight, like I didn't vote Trump in 2020. Like I just was at the time I was just like so fed up with like a lot of different stuff. I didn't vote for him in that election, but it was like reflecting on everything now. I don't regret any of my choices. I feel like everything's working out as it kind of is supposed to in a sense.
So you would have stuck with Cruz in 2016.
No, I voted Trump. My parents voted. Cruz.
Oh, your parents voted for
Yeah,
Cruz.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Good.
but now like evangelicals are like super hardcore on board with him. And I think a lot of that. I mean, there might be some element of like the personal relation, but like I think a lot of it just comes down to like the stuff he's done. Like he did one of the big things he did to try to get evangelicals on board at the time was he put Pence on as the VP, and then he promised he would do like really conservative justices on the court. And I mean that kind of worked out. I mean, Roe v. Wade got overturned back in 2022, and that kind of, I think for a lot of people that kind of sealed the deal because that was the intention behind a lot of those picks. So I mean, you gave your support, you got rewarded for it, kind of deal.
Yeah. So Josh, one of the things we were talking about earlier is, basically just shit that's been happening since Trump has been inaugurated. What are some things that have stuck out to you? As far as pardons and things he's announced.
The removal from the World Health Organization, I thought was really cool. I mean, I kind of saw it coming, but that was really cool.
So explain that to me, because I don't understand that, and I don't understand the Paris Climate Accords.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, who gives a shit? Like pulling out of them doesn't do anything, right? It's not like he has to spend any money anywhere specifically. It's not like any of those things are binding, right? So like, I guess I'm just kind of like who gives? Like, I can kind of see the World Health because I think that we do give them hundreds of millions of dollars. But I guess like for other stuff, I'm like I don't really understand like what the impact of this is.
Well, I think a lot of it kind of was because there was some alleged mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic for starters.
Right.
I think honestly, the financial side of it, I think would have been like, I mean, that had been my reason for wanting removal. That'd have been my number one reason would have been the financial disparities in that situation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what was it? Didn't we provide like almost 20% of the funding to that son of a bitch?
Oh, probably. I mean, like I said, dude, I know we give like $100 million a year.
I mean,
I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's like nothing. But I'm like, yeah, it's not.
We covered 20% of their fucking expenses.
Yeah. So, Austin, like, how do you interpret some of this? Do you think it's anything?
In terms of like overall, or like the?
Yeah, I guess I'm just like what do you see the point in any of this? Like, I don't.
In terms of like the World Health and Paris Accord or whatever. I really can't speak on the health thing. I think Josh is correct on that. I have no reason to doubt him. As far as like the Paris Accord, I think it's just because that tends to get used to like justify like certain, maybe not necessarily laws or anything, but like, well, I mean, I guess laws would probably be the way to put it. So like regulations and stuff. So I can kind of see that.
So you think that people point to it and say, oh, well, we did this, so we got to do this.
Yeah, I mean the whole point of the Accords was like you're supposed to like reduce your stuff, and like the whole rationale of leaving it's like, it's not fair. We have to do this, and then all these other countries just kind of like claim they're going to do it and cheat on it and whatever. But yeah. I mean, my focus has just been on the other stuff because I mean, there's like we started the episode talking about, like pulling out, or reversing the EO that Johnson had put in place back in '65. That's huge. The stuff on Title IX, that's huge. Like.
So what do you think about these, Josh? Because we haven't heard what you thought. Like, which one of these pardons did you think was the most interesting? Or not pardons, but one of these executive actions did you think was the most interesting and stood out to you?
Just like the executive orders?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really know if I have a set answer on that one.
Because nothing's really stood out to you?
No, nothing crazy. I mean, is there? Y'all have a list of them that are like crazy to y'all? Because I mean, most of them to me kind of felt like we had.
I was gonna say Austin thinks a few of them are pretty big.
Well, I mean, for one, let's just throw the obvious one out there, like the whole EO on like birthright citizenship. That can change. Trying to.
Well, I mean, the gender thing was kind of like. I mean, I feel like it's not a big deal, but it felt like for some reason in today's age that was a big deal.
The DEI or the trans stuff?
No, just the gender thing. Like the government's stance now is two genders. Like,
oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, here's one I didn't know about. I think it came today. They've suspended a refugee admissions program, so that's a huge one.
So I knew
Uh,
they kind of did some stuff like that, where they were like I know I remember like and honestly I thought it was a little crazy, but I was like, well, now looking back, I'm like, God, I probably would have been fucked. When they were telling like people like I know universities were like telling the students like you got to come back before Trump is inaugurated. And like now he's like, hey, like if you're a foreign national, like you're not coming in here to the United States. I thought that was an interesting one. Like people were talking about he's basically going to redo the Muslim ban, you know, and I was like that's an interesting one. Like really, you're going to rehash that, But like have you heard about this, Austin?
I had seen reporting to that effect. I don't know specifics on it. The thing that's really like I don't think that one will be as crazy because like I think the Supreme Court ended up ruling in his favor back in the day. So I mean like
In his
so like
favor or against it?
I'm pretty sure they ruled in favor of him back in like 2018, but like he never really bothered to attempt it again. So I mean,
Okay. See, I thought they ruled against it, and then they
I
were like, okay, like, because it was basically like, no, you can't do that because it's towards a specific set of countries and it's discriminatory, and that's why this whole one he was gonna like try to get, he was gonna find a way to get around it.
I could be wrong on that. I just vaguely remember I thought he had won the court case or something. I can't remember what it was, but
Well, so here's one that I think is really interesting, and I will credit you for this. I remember, and I think it was you and me were talking about this, and maybe Josh was here too, and maybe because I remember you had brought this up, Austin, and I remember kind of being like, I don't know about that. Was I think the first time I ever heard Stephen Miller, right? Isn't that the OMB guy?
Yeah,
I can't remember his
yeah,
official position. But
And,
yeah,
and like I've heard is that people
Congrats.
being like he is going to be the policy guy. Like he is going to direct all the action. He
Allegedly,
is coming up with
allegedly.
all these policies. Like he was the one who was doing, I think, the Remain in Mexico stuff at last administration. Um,
oh yeah, but
and I
they
remember
brought
it
that
was
back
like
too.
you were telling me about that, and then you were like yeah, like this guy is like the real deal. Like he is going to be like a force. And then now, like every time I'm hearing stuff, it's like, oh yeah, like that's coming from Stephen Miller on like what we're gonna do. And I mean I applaud the man. I'm like, hey, like you've got some ideas and you're enacting them. You're going all out to it.
Yeah, well, something that just came across the wire. So like they're saying he's now signed like an executive order, like ATF, U.S. Marshals, DEA. I think one other organization, like they can just like they don't even have to do like the whole like I can't remember what the official legal term is, but it's just like if they catch them, they can just deport them like instantly.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. The big one because I mean when we did the foreign policy episode, I think we brought it up. Like I think way
John
back.
Bolton.
Well, not just John Bolton, but like that one's really funny. I don't think
I
that was
think
a
that
huge.
one is hilarious. Josh, I want hold on before we go to the next one, Austin. Josh, what do you think about that? When he like took away John Bolton's security clearances.
Oh no, shit was fucking hilarious, dude. He didn't. It was more than one person, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it was a few people. Like
Yeah,
it was like his like it was like
he
fuck these
straight up
people from the last
he straight up
administration
said,
list.
he straight up said, "Gotcha, bitch, dude."
Yeah.
He
So
shit-
okay, go ahead, Austin. I just wanted to get out. I want to get Josh's opinion on it because I was like when I saw this, I was like this like it almost made me be like, okay, Donald Trump is fucking petty. But I was like at the same time, this is like funny and this is like gangster to do. So go ahead, Austin.
Which on that note, before I forget it, did you see that like post he made the other night where he was just like brain dead Nikki Haley? He was like
No,
bashing
I
John
didn't
Bolton.
see
It
that.
was so funny because he posted it like 1 a.m. You just knew how he like wrote that
Oh
up.
yeah.
But the other big ones like declaring like cartels foreign terrorist
Yeah, you're telling
organizations.
us about this.
I remember telling you guys like the whole Rubio thing, like that was a very clear sign, like it was going to be a very, Latin America focused foreign policy, and now you've got them, declaring these organizations FTOs, and like they're talking about like sending special forces down there after them. I don't know if you got. There was one thing I saw earlier, like they have confirmed they're going to try to send. They're sending down like I think so far the contingent's going to be like 2,500 like active duty down to like help like secure the border and stuff.
Yeah.
And like right before we got on, I saw a thing like the Marine contingent of that. Like they've already said like they're going down there like armed and like they do have orders they can shoot and stuff.
Well, you want one of the craziest part is, and I know Georgia was involved in this, but a lot of people don't know is, there's National Guard troops down
Oh
there
yeah,
already. Like, I don't think people understand it. Like, like they are so under resourced down there. Like that you are pulling National Guards people whose job is not to fucking do that. And then like you said, now they're like, hey, like we're gonna send more fucking people down there. And
Well,
I'm
they're
like,
talking like
Jesus Christ, like that's probably just to get up to like manageable levels.
they're talking about sending up to 10,000 active duty down there, which is like an entire division. So that's pretty huge. And like, I have seen people that like I follow and stuff. They're like, yeah, that could be used as a basis for like future operations. Because if you've already got all those guys down there doing like the logistics work, it's really nothing to start sending down like special forces and stuff because they've already got all that support like right there, ready to help them out and stuff. So like, I would not be surprised if stuff happens in Mexico before too long. Like they're definitely setting the shaping the battlefield, so to speak. Also, I personally like. I really do not care if we invade Canada and Greenland. I think it would be hilarious, and I'd support it solely because I think it would be hilarious to do that.
I don't want to deal with the refugees. That's my issue.
Yeah, I don't want those filthy maple leafs either.
Well, and it's just like that's my thing. I'm like honestly, I was like honestly, man, I'd give them the lay of the land. I'd be like, hey guys, like we're fucking doing. You are going to be so economically integrated and mostly politically integrated with us to where you're basically just going to like officially be a vassal. Like I know it's that pseudo thing, but that's what you are going to be. And we are going to start working on annexation. Like for me, I'd be like, yeah, like that's I would not be surprised if that's where we are in like 4 years. But I think it's really interesting because it's like if you do anything, if troops go across that border and a Canadian shoots, now you're dealing with refugees. And I don't think there's any way possible to bring Canada or whoever in and then have to fucking rebuild their country. And it's like, do you really want to take a shit next to where you live and then go clean it up? It's like just take a shit in the toilet, So I just don't understand that. And I know you think it'd be funny, but and I think I just don't get it. Like, what the fuck is the point?
There was this one like really good like comic book series like 15 years ago or so, and it was very like post-Iraq war and kind of its humor. And it was like supposedly it was set. Funnily enough, I think it was set in 2025, no less. But it was like, oh yeah, U.S. troops have like invaded Canada in order to like annex it, and like there's like the whole point of the comic book is there's like a huge battle over like a Tim Hortons.
Oh,
It's just like I don't know. I just think this whole thing's funny, and like you go online and you see like Canadians just like freaking out, and it's really. I mean, do I really think it's going to happen? No, but do I think it's hilarious just seeing this freak out and everybody just like panicking? Yes, because it's like y'all really just have picking the funniest possible crisis to happen.
yeah. So I wanna give it to Josh on this, and maybe we'll end it here, dude. I don't know how long we've been going. Maybe we've been going about an hour and 20 minutes or so.
About an hour and 15.
An hour and 15. Okay, so like let's do this and then let's end it here because I mean shit, dude. We I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface, but we could be talking for another half an hour about this. What were your thoughts on the election or the inauguration ceremonies and all that kind of stuff? Like, what you guys think? I mean, Josh, you were there, so like, I'm
Yeah.
curious what you have to say. Like, what was kind of like your vibe of DC? What were you seeing? And just kind of like what was going on? And like, what did you think? Like, did you think it was weird that kind of the stuff with like, I mean, everybody's making a big deal about the Elon thing, Trump giving his crazy speeches. Like, how'd you feel it was down there?
Well, to start it off, in the words of Ben Shapiro, the last time a helicopter left a disaster that big was Vietnam.
Yeah,
Um, so for me, it was really interesting, man, dude. It was the vibes are really good though. I mean, all the normal looking people were coming back into Navy Yard. That was Trump's kind of area. If you were part of, if you were going to work, if you're going to work in DC under his thing, typically that's where most people go is either Navy Yard or Alexandria. But everybody's kind of coming into the fold with it, getting back ready for it. It was just really, really class. Like it just kind of felt like everything was kind of like back to normal, if that makes sense. Obviously, I know like we still got a ways to go through his first few months here, but like overall, it just felt like man, it's like we're like there was definitely like a we're back feeling with it. Everybody was happy. There wasn't any like real chaos. I mean, there was a few protesters, but like nothing crazy.
what do you think, Awesome? Awesome.
Sorry. Nothing really stood out to me. I mean, I thought some of the stuff during like the programming was pretty funny. The Elon Musk thing is just hilarious because he definitely seemed like he was coked out, and like I just thought it was funny. I really didn't. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I thought it was really what made it even funnier was like the ADL came out and was like defending him, then like AOC was like attacking the ADL for like defending him. So
Well, I thought it was always so dumb because I'm like, people forget this guy is autistic, right?
yeah,
Like he's high functioning autistic, and he's going up there, and it's like he just found out he won. He's realizing today that he won, and I'm like, and he's spazzing out, and he threw his hands out there and did something, kind of like he probably shouldn't have done. That is literally who Elon Musk is, you know. So like I'm kind of like, oh, what'd you expect? Like I wouldn't make a big deal about it.
to the point I always make with stuff like that, it's just like, dog, we've got enough on our plate right now. Do I really care if like even if he was up there like saying the full like the phrase and everything? I really don't care. It's not like he's got an official position. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like maybe I've been around the block enough to be like desensitized to stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. I'm just used to politicians saying like really crazy stuff at this point. It's like there's really nothing that really like I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever.
There's some obscure politician out in Texas who probably says something to where if you really looked at it, you'd be like, holy shit. Like what'd you just say? I mean, go look at the Alabama senator. I mean, he was saying like some like borderline racist shit. And it's like yeah, these people just kind of say stuff. Like they're about as wacky as it comes.
The one that really like on that the one that always makes me laugh. You both know Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, right?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen like compilations of like stuff he says is like off the wall hilarious?
It's wild.
Yeah. It's just like stuff that don't even make sense. It's just so funny. So I mean, like I don't care. Like I don't really care now. The only thing.
Keep going.
The only thing really notable to me in terms of like a political angle is like, I don't know if you saw that where they went to like that. I think it's the National Cathedral yesterday, and they had that whole thing with like the bishop there. And it's like this may be the only thing that actually like kind of engendered any sort of like news, and even then, it's not really that noteworthy. It's just like, okay, we're back to kind of like 2017 and 2018 antics, but like I think at this point, like everybody's just like so checked out. They're just like, okay, whatever, that's business as usual.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think is irritating Democrats the most of what he's doing?
I think the fact that all of big tech is basically like flipped, because that's going to have the most like political implications, I think, so far. Because before, like, they were very antagonistic. Like even Elon back in 2016 was like a huge like was publicly a Clinton supporter. Now even Sam Altman from like the AI stuff is flipped. You've got Jeff Bezos and you got Musk there, and like they're all buddy now. It's like behind closed doors, I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar. That's probably what makes them the most mad, because it's like there goes so much of your fundraising. There goes your because I mean before, like, I mean, it was well known, like a lot of these companies like very much favored one side, and now the fact that they've kind of flipped, it's like, yeah, that advantage kind of goes the other side now.
Yeah. What do you think is irritating them, Josh?
What was that last part there?
What do you think is irritating the Democrats the most of all this stuff going on?
Sorry, but that was taking minutes in there. It irritated them the most.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have like a set thing that would be irritating the most. I mean, I really think that they're just still kind of like in shock. Like I think they genuinely had it. Like I think they were like, we got this. Like there was no way that we would vote him back in. Is kind of how I think their thought process was. So I think that's been like the mass thing is I think they're still in the shock factor. But as far as like things that I think upset them the most is that I think the Gulf of America thing's kind of because like that's on my timeline right now. Like every like liberal friend I have like posts like that video and they're like, can't believe y'all voted this moron back in. I'm over here laughing.
So I want to ask you this, and then we'll go off. I look at this and I'm just like, like I think the thing that really kind of irritates me the most about it, about just everything that's kind of happening, is and like people, I know liberals are getting fucking upside down on this, is that they do not like the they do not like that they have basically like embarrassed themselves to everybody. Like you said, like all these tech guys are now over there on the Republican side, so that's a huge donor boost. And then they're also sitting there being like, we also don't have a coalition. Like they're just not here anymore. And being like, we don't really have anything we're fighting for. So all of our money's gone, all of our people are gone, and there's no reason to be here. And like I just don't think they like fucking know what's going on. They're trying to put up these efforts. Like they're sitting there opposing the CIA director. And it's like really like this is what we're fucking doing. Like they're just like not even existent. Like I don't even know like what they're gonna even fight for, because it's like they've just embarrassed themselves. And they're gonna blame Biden. But I'm like, like you guys don't have, you guys should this should be unlocked, you know? And so I mean, is that kind of how you're seeing it, Josh?
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
So keep going.
No, go ahead. I was
Well, I was just gonna say something like, what do you do?
like, what do you mean?
Like, okay, you're Democrat, you're John Ossoff. 2026, you're running for re-election to your Senate seat in a crucial swing state. What are you doing about it? Who are
Right.
you fighting for?
You're fighting to
that's-
maintain the Gulf of Mexico. That's what you're fighting for.
That's what I mean. It's like that's what we're spending our political capital on. Bullshit.
Dude, I mean, they're gonna have to come up with an issue. I mean, there's nothing really to grasp onto.
And I've already told you guys this. You know what they're waiting on? They're waiting on some poor little kid getting pulled out of school or something like that to get deported. That and that is what they are waiting on. Like they're waiting on some shit like that to happen for them to be like, oh, okay, yep, that's what we're gonna stick with. We're not gonna actually reevaluate any of these positions. They're just gonna sit there and be like, yeah, like we just don't like that they deported some of these kids, and it's like that's what we're fighting for. Like really, like you've got nothing else in the bag. Like this is fucking ridiculous. I don't think they know how to be a minority party. I don't think they do. I'm not seeing it. And it sounds like you kind of think the same, Josh.
I do agree.
What do you think, Austin?
What you're saying, I've seen a lot of people make the same point. It just seems like the energy and there's just nothing there, and I think that's kind of reflected in like I said earlier, like big tech is flipped, and I mean like that's kind of it. If there's any indication in modern America, it's when the rich and powerful are kind of flipping. That's usually a pretty good sign of where they see where the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
Which, on that note, real fast, kind of taking another direction. Sam Altman and Elon Musk have been like arguing with each other on Twitter for like the past 2 hours, and it's very hilarious.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, they're going back and forth on like the AI stuff right now.
Well, and maybe this could be the last thing. I know I always say this shit, but I mean that's something that I've kind of heard, and maybe we'll kind of end it here, and maybe we can take this in the next episode. So I know this whole AI kind of conversation has been kind of getting big, and I know Elon's got this whole separate viewpoint about what they should do, and Sam Altman's got this other viewpoint. Like, what do you think the future of AI is going to be in the U.S.?
Oh, dude, I love this conversation. Oh my god, yes, dude.
Well, but it's in broadly like, okay, do you think we're gonna end?
So
People don't have to work anymore. Like, what's going on?
wait, can I take this segment over and like ask
Yeah,
questions?
go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask y'all questions here. And I'll kind of give you my like takes and so I love the AI conversation. So I guess for me is I think it's like we really saw big development from like 2021 to like now. I remember this past year, so 2023, when I had my part time capability kind of rolling full speed, I had a couple of college kids on it, and I asked one of them. I was like, "Hey, so I'm like, what do they do like?" Because he was talking about an English class, and I'm like, "So what do they do like?" Because I remember when I was in college, and Andrew, you and Austin both probably remember this. Do y'all remember like Turnitin? Like,
Yep.
yeah. So like Turnitin, like I'm like, so like like do they have like a thing for AI? And he's like, no, they actually tell us to use it. They're like, it's the way of the world. Like they say use it now,
Hmm.
because it can't detect it. And for me, my thing is, it's like we've seen it change. Like all of a sudden now, this past year, we watched AI get memory now. So like now you can like whatever you type in ChatGPT or hell even at the bare minimum your Snapchat AI if you have Snapchat Plus, its memory can collect now. So do you think there's coming to be a point where do you think they have to stop development at some point, or do you think as of right now, it could
Yeah.
develop forever?
Take this first, Austin.
I definitely think there's a possibility like it could become a bigger deal, but I'm not qualified enough to talk on like the specifics of AI itself. I can't talk about like the big thing like right now that I'm watching is these data centers they're having to build for it.
Well,
Cons-
did you see where they had that one AI that like they had those two AIs talk to each other and they came up with their own language?
No, that's actually very interesting.
So they put these two AIs together. It was like it was very 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 highly developed AI, and like the AI in conversation with each other came up with its own language. Like it is a code, just like a code language that like nobody could decipher. It was not on the human. It is not on this planet. Like it was just a brand new language.
That's creepy.
They had to shut it down.
So I want to say I have authority on this, but I've got a little bit more of an understanding. I think that I don't really know if you're going to have any regulations or anything like that, or any restrictions are going to pop in um for AI. I just don't see it possible. Like I don't think we've ever done that before. Like I don't think like even with nuclear, like we never were like, okay, we did fusion, like we're done. It's always been like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And so for me, I'm like, I think we're gonna keep doing it. And I'm honestly not super worried about machine learning or AI. I'm more worried about when you can when you can start genetically modifying your body and then kind of becoming like a synthetic. For me, that's when it'll be like, okay, like this is a little like we're getting a little crazy here. Because I don't think you're really gonna see as much development on the AI robotic side as people think they would. Does
I
that
think
kind of answer your question there, Josh? Well, go ahead, Awesome.
like the one I was going to say, like I can't speak to the technical side of it, and it's beyond my capabilities. But as far as like the practical side of it, uh, they're having to build all these data centers, and they're going to consume so much power. That's a big reason. That's nuclear's kind of revival right now. Is like a lot of these companies are like willing to pay top dollar to get like nuclear power plants just to sustain their data centers. So I mean, I think I'm not worried about it. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm not worried about it. But the reason I'm not worried about it is because I think before it ever gets to like a point we would have to be like really concerned. I think it's just the practical power limitations would start hitting it. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like they're talking like they're going to have to build like they're literally keeping like 80-year-old nuclear power plants open now because they're like we're just going to need the power. I mean, so I'm not worried
No,
about
I
that.
agree. I
Like
agree.
this, it's just there's too many constraints on for it to be like a runaway scenario. But I do think in terms of like, I think it can become major enough. It could have like serious economic impacts, but I don't think it's like a runaway scenario. I'm also not too worried about like the job loss thing. Like we've talked about it briefly before, but like the more I look into it, like I think that's just kind of like a justification for other stuff. I think than more an actual concern about like we'll lose jobs from it or not. I mean,
So keep going.
like the whole the thing I always point out to people is like if you're really worried about your job getting like replaced by AI, I just want to point out the companies that are building AI are bringing in like huge amounts of H-1B visas, so
Oh
they
yeah.
know they know they're going to need people, and it's just I think it's just an excuse for other stuff.
So I think with I 100% agree on the energy thing. I think there's an energy capacity limitation that's going to prevent you from doing all this other kind of stuff. Like okay, you're going to get to AI to where it's basically like stopped at a point, and maybe it's going to be like, okay, well, you're going to create fission and fusion, and your fusion's going to power it. Okay, maybe, but you're starting to get kind of wild here. So that's why let's talk about this again. Let's talk about this again, and let's do like another episode on this, because I think this is interesting, especially with this huge development that is coming out for that they announced this huge investment, and I know Elon and them are already disagreeing about it. So let's come back to this because I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to lay the foundation for what really like the next, honestly, probably 5 years of economic growth, if not more, is going to be.
We have an AI in space episode.
Yeah, we could do that. So let's go ahead and leave it here, and then
Going to Mars,
we'll
gentlemen.
meet again.
All right, sounds good.
Going to Mars. You should all be high when we do that.
Already am.
All right, see you guys.
All right, see you.
All going to Mars.